Okay. All right. Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Arts Commission at our monthly meeting. Today is February 11th. My name is Adrielle Farr, Director of Art and Cultural Affairs for the City of Kingston and organizer for our virtual meeting. Before we begin our meeting, we'd like to go over a few meeting guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Commission members and city staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website at a later date. If you are not included on the agenda, please be respectful and courteous to our commission members by remaining muted. If you have any technical difficulties, please send a text message to the following number, 845-399-9072, or utilize the chat feature. As the organizer for today's meeting, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance Arts Commission Chair Susan Lynn, Arts Commission members Ann Bailey, Peter Criswell, Ione, Linda Marston-Reed, Ward Mintz, and Lynn Woods. Guests include Maya Frieden. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times, and on behalf of the City of Kingston, I wish you and your family good health. I now turn the floor over to Chair Susan Lynn, who will call the meeting to order.
Bang, 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 bang. Oh, did everybody get a chance to review the minutes? Anybody want to make any corrections?
I think melon gets 2 L's. That's all I saw was melon was spelled like melon.
I spelled melon like melon?
If you look
Really?
at the item, it says melon, M-E-L-O-N.
Yeah, okay.
Second time it's spelled correctly. It's mentioned twice.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to accept?
I move we approve the minutes as amended.
Okay. Let Ann second. Okay. Addie, master plan for the arts?
Sure. Yes, so first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming through to the presentation that we did the other day. I feel like that was a really great next step in the process. And I feel like, you know, and just in terms of kind of getting a understanding of people's opinions and thoughts about where we're at, I think it was a really good step. You know, there was a lot of feedback to take in. So Lord and I have our planning meeting next week. And that'll be after we kind of get some results from the survey that we're putting out. So we'll just be able to take some time to kind of dive through. I think one of the things that I was really happy about with the outcome was that we did get about 10 new registrations on Engage Kingston from that meeting directly. So there were a bunch of folks who, you know, heard the call and went and did their registration on Engage Kingston, and folks were using the question feature. And I thought that was really great. So just a little bit more information out there. The only thing that we're still working through is just making sure that we get all the edits that we think we should put together for the economic impact plan PDF. So if you haven't already sent over anything that you thought should be amended in that, please let me know, send that over. I know we kind of discussed it a little bit informally at the last meeting, but if there's anything, Lynn, thank you so much for sending over those edits. I was like, shoo, and sent those right over to them. And they thought that that was really helpful. Since there was a lot of feedback to go through for Lord for just kind of the plan in general, you know, that's one space. But the other thing that we want to provide feedback to is that economic impact analysis, just to make sure. I think one thing that came up was the, you know, suggestion of including festivals and that kind of thing. And Peter said that he asked them to include the Ulster 2040 plan. So that would be great to be able to send over to them. But yeah, we're looking to get that document up on Engage Kingston sooner rather than later, just so folks have that context as they're going through the State of Culture presentation. So whenever y'all get a chance to let me know if there was anything that you still felt we should amend there, I am more than happy to pass that along. You can also email them directly if you like, but I'm also happy just to kind of, pass that along. I don't mind at all. But yeah, I think one of the things we discussed at the last meeting was just making sure that the economic impact analysis felt really specific to Kingston. And I think that's something that John Stover heard pretty clearly about, don't give us a copy paste economic impact plan, like really make sure that language is specific to Kingston. If you're making reference to places, make sure that's correct. And that's kind of one of the benefits of being able to provide feedback, because we can help them make those corrections. Peter?
I just wanted us to take a moment to feel really proud of the work that we did on this. It was a long, long haul for this, and big kudos to Addie for putting in a lot of hard work. But as that presentation was happening, I just remembered when this was a little conversation that was happening, and to actually see it full blown, it was, I felt proud. I felt proud, and I hope that we all of us who put a lot of hours and thought into this feel really proud of this.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think, since I'm kind of like knee deep in it, sometimes I don't even really like take a minute to think about all of the time and energy that's been going into it. But yeah, that was a really exciting moment of just being like, wow, we've been listening. We've been hearing what folks have to say. We've made this space. We've had 5 workshops. We've run 2 surveys. Like there's just so much going into it. So I'm really excited. I think, I think another part of it too is like the more space that Lord creates for feedback, the better I feel about it. I would feel really strange if we were just kind of taking this and running with it. So I love the fact that, we're working with folks who are making that room for us to be able to try out different things. Ward?
I was wondering if you, 2 things. I was wondering if you had any idea about the number of people who participated, just as so we could drop that number if and when. In other words, in the work on this survey, in other words, not counting if someone went to 5 meetings, counting that as 5 people, but do you have any estimate of the number of people who participated in the creation of the survey?
Wait, I'm a little confused. You mean the people who took the survey?
Who went to the meetings, not the survey, the study, the cultural plan.
Yeah, there's a slide during the State of Culture presentation that has a breakdown for all of those numbers in it. So I don't know it off the top of my head, but there is a breakdown for it. I know for survey participants, we were at, I think it was like 159 folks took our surveys. So like I said, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but there's a whole slide that breaks down all of the numbers of different participants, how many people came to workshops. And I know at the State of Culture presentation yesterday, at the height of the folks that were there, we had 105 people register, which is incredible for a municipal meeting. So I was really excited about that. But then people who actually came through, I think at our largest number, we were at 92, which is really great. So we weren't able to retain those numbers throughout the entire presentation, but that's fairly rare. So I think at the end, because I know a few people had to break off, I think at the end we were at 58, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but just having some idea, I think is very helpful as we talk about it. My second, thank you. My second question is, could you remind us what happens next and next?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the next step is going to be the task forces. And the way we select the task forces is by picking what are our top priorities. So Lord has made some determinations for what they think would be some smart steps for us to move forward. So that's why we're doing the survey that we're doing now, which is to decide what we think should be the top priorities, because we can't, we have 8 findings right now. It'd be pretty difficult to set up 8 different task forces just to get people energized on that. But this is the moment where we come to actualization. And as we know, there are quite a few people who really vocalize wanting to be a part of the plan. And so that's one of the nice things about having multiple stages throughout the plan for different levels of engagement. I think there are a few task force people that I can think of off the top of my head that'll be natural fits. So once we get the feedback from the community about what they think our priorities should be, then we'll be in a position where we can start putting together these task forces and start thinking, as a community about how we make things happen. If we have a suggestion that we need to empower workforce training, who are the people that need to be at that table? How do we make that happen? And I feel like this is probably one of the most exciting steps for some folks, because again, it's that concept of actualization. So I think for folks who are on advisory committees as well, I think that's, and for us here at Arts Commission, I think that's also a good time to be able to, one of the things that we'll be able to do is kind of be able to take a look at what all of the task force are doing, see if there's any commonalities, be able to put people in contact with good resources, that kind of thing. So we'll be kind of operating as advisors to these task forces as well. I do also think there's room for people who are on advisory committees or on the Arts Commission to participate in these task forces. I think there's plenty of space for that. So just depending on where folks' capacity is at, when we do make those selections, if there is something that you're really excited to be a part of, then I think we should definitely lift our voices up and let folks know if there's something we really want to, engage with. If there's something that comes up that really feels like, ooh, I want to work on that. Yes, Lynn?
So in terms of the city government, like the Common Council, the mayor, at what point, the Common Council, as I recall, they have to approve the plan finally, but I just wondered at what point does the city get involved? Is the city involved in the task forces? And also I want to say, I thought the meeting was fantastic, and I really appreciate how Lord has responded, and I just felt the breakout groups just felt really fruitful. And I just think they've done a fantastic job of taking in so many aspects and so many voices and responding. So it felt very satisfying. So I just wondered, in what point does the city get involved, if at all, or are any, Common Council people, are they involved in the task force, or this is again, all just people from the community?
I definitely think it would be wise to keep the task forces more community oriented, as we do have an alderman who is on our project advisory committee, and it is a big ask. And I think it would be really great to include Common Council members and city staff in the planning process, but maybe not formally assign them to a task force is kind of what I'm thinking might be a good strategy there. In terms of city involvement, since it is a city project, we are kind of involved in that sense, and in terms of the Common Council having to vote, that happens after the final draft of the plan is presented to the community. Then we would take the plan to the following Common Council meeting and ask them to vote to enact it. We're still allowed to work on the plan without, or suggestions from the plan without formal Common Council approval. But I think that there is nothing that we're coming up with in this plan that I think that they wouldn't want to approve. And I think it would be really, good for us to, get some buy-in from the Common Council and get them involved and engaged. So I think it's a really wonderful idea to include them in the task force process. Like I said, since one of the aldermen is on the project advisory committee, they are up to date with what projects are happening. So as we go through the project, I think it's going to be really good to have someone who's kind of clued in a little bit. But I do think, the more we can communicate about what the goals are of the plan, the better. And I think one of the strongest things to do is to request that the Common Council approve the plan formally, because I think it just sends a strong message to the community. So I'm thinking we have a goal to present the final draft. Our goal is May in that time. So I would think the earliest we'd be able to get it approved by the Common Council would be June. So I feel like that's a strong timeline. And again, depending on how much we want to go back and revise things, might take a little bit longer, but I think we're all shooting for that May deadline for the draft. For the final plan.
Great, thanks. Okay.
Okay, anybody else have any other questions? Addie, great job. You shine.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's a group effort, so I'm really glad that we're all kind of chipping in and working together on it. But it does feel good to be back in community space. For that felt really good. I'm so glad we didn't use the webinar feature so that we could see each other's faces and take things in. And I know one of the things that we were all really looking forward to with this plan was to be able to network and get to know one another, and that has been different with virtual spaces. But I think yesterday's presentation was a good example of how we can still kind of come together and create some positive community spaces, even virtually. So feeling good. I appreciate that.
Great. So update on the Mellon Foundation, Mellon with 2 L's. We had a meeting on Monday night, and I thought it went really well. We limited it to an hour, so it went very quickly. We had in attendance Rashida Tyler from the YMCA, Erica Brown from Radio Kingston, Winston Queen from My Kingston Kids, Nina Dawson from the county, Jeff Miller, historian and Rear Center, Ward Mintz, otherwise known as Michael, Addie, Lynn, Sarah Litvin, Edmund Roberts from CCE, and Maya was there also. So
Myra Young Armstead.
Oh, and Myra. Yes, I forgot. I
Bard.
did not write her down. So basically we went around the room, we introduced ourselves. We then just took some time, and everybody went around and gave their ideas, their thoughts. And so what I'm going to do is put together a brief outline of what happened, in case people don't, if they want to go back and review. I did send the link out, so Anne said she watched it in toto. And we will have another meeting next Monday before our Arts Commission meeting. So do any of you have any suggestions as to how, should I light a spark under the committee and say, okay, these are the ideas that came out. Can you elaborate? Any thoughts?
Susie, I'm wondering what you feel the deadline should be on this in terms of getting an application in.
I would think maybe in about 3 or 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound reasonable, Ward?
Yes.
Okay. I know that Laura, you're doing stuff with monuments. So, there was a big emphasis on kids, that the kids should be involved. Winston said it, Edmund said it, a couple of other people noted that. So I think that's going to be an important piece of it. So I'll just try and drum up some more interest, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Susie,
Mhm.
did you say that you were going to send us some ideas based on what came up?
Yeah, I'm going to send a distilled version of the program, and just so that people will have something to work with, and maybe we can then distill that down even further to 1 or 2 ideas that we could present to the foundations. And for those of you who weren't there, there's also it's the J.M. Kaplan Fund. They have an initiative that is, and I don't have the information right in front of me, but it was attached. So if you get a chance, look at that. So that is another opportunity for funding. I believe it's $175,000 or $150,000. So that is also an avenue we could go down.
And in a way that because of where they're located, I mean, where the Kaplan children live across the river. They have country houses across the river. So they're probably much more familiar with the Hudson Valley than, or care about it more than the Mellon Foundation. So it's good to take it seriously.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Is Mr. Kaplan in Newburgh? Is that the father?
No, it's Jacob M. Kaplan. He owned something called Welch's Grape Juice.
Okay, totally
You
different.
might remember when he spirited his nephew out of Mexico, where he was in a jail and the plane came down into the prison yard. And his daughter, who's still with us, is Joan Davidson. And so it's her kids who run things now. She just runs, the small foundation that gives money for publications.
Oh, I'd just like to say that, so the Kaplan is actually a grant. But for Mellon, we're applying to apply. I mean, it's
Right.
not an application.
And the Kaplan Fund is also a preliminary. You have to submit initially, and then you're asked to submit a proposal.
Mhm. Yes.
Susie, does it make sense to reference whatever is decided, maybe two choices or three choices with our grants writers amongst us to really get their feedback? It would make sense to me. I always say go to the experts whenever there's a question in my mind. So maybe those amongst us that write grants could be involved with helping decide, because the idea is to bring the money to Kingston. It's really, how do we get this money here? And how do we best utilize it in our community? So if we could think along those lines, I think we have a greater chance of success.
I also think it's a good idea to look at the first grants that Mellon gave out just to see kind of what they liked, because that's a very important thing. Not that they're going to not change their minds, but they're usually, you don't go 180 degrees in what you fund.
I agree, Ward. I think we should all take a look at that.
If you go to their website, and I think I said I was going to send you all a link and I never did, but if you go to their website, it has a blog and it talks about the different projects that have been funded. The first one was the Philadelphia project. There have been a couple of others since then. Most of them have been in larger cities, but there was one in, I think it was Lewiston, Maine. So it's, that's more like a Kingston size.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you did send us out the information. I mean, I thought you'd sent the,
Oh, did I? Okay, good.
you did send it, so we should have it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's crucial to really connect to their what they like. Or the-
I was trying to find them and I found the Philadelphia project, but I couldn't find the others, but maybe I didn't look hard enough.
If you just Google Mellon Foundation,
Yeah, so I'm sure.
and it'll bring you, and it has initiatives, and
Okay.
it's a drop down menu, and it has all of the monument project and all the other things. So
One thing that is clear in it is that Elizabeth says, there's some quotes of hers there, that it's beyond statues. So they really want to think beyond creating new statues, unless there's something really exciting or different about it.
I know, have you and Elizabeth had a virtual coffee yet to chat about things?
In dream time, yes, in my dreams. I don't want it that would be terrible to do that. Yeah, no, I didn't do that. But I did talk to her mother, as I said I would. about it, and she said, Elizabeth, who is my friend, so Elizabeth is about, I guess, the age of one of my sons. So it's that generation. So we do know that family from way back. From my grandmother knew their grandmother, and I had crushes on the handsome brother that I would see walking past our house. Anyway, so there's that kind of connection. But I did mention it to her without, that we were doing this, and she said yes, it was Elizabeth. She was so connected to this project. It means so much to her. So I can remind someone that I'm in Kingston again
Yeah, why not?
at some point soon. But
I just want to express that it's a lot of money, and the good thing about money is what you can do with it. And I think it's really powerful to think about how best to use this grant in the community. And statues don't really speak to me. I'm just being very honest. I guess I'm a very practical person, and I would love to see how this money could be used in a very open and just an amazing way for this city, so that everyone could enjoy it.
But the money is related to the idea of monuments, right? I mean, that is the connector. So it's like a new way of thinking about monuments. I mean, it does relate to monuments, even though we may not be talking about statues, which I don't think any of us are.
Absolutely. A monument's a monument.
yeah, the concept. So it's really they're interested in an investigation also of what a monument or a memorial means, and what it means to people and what it means to us now, as opposed to times that people made ancient those old ones, and how it can be reimagined for our times. So they seem to be philosophically interested in that process.
Okay, so I don't have much on the Harriet Tubman update, but I did go back and review the minutes or the meeting from December, and Margie Menard did indeed say that they had funding, and that she doesn't know if they could foot the bill for the whole thing, but that between their friends group and other things, that she thinks that she could put together some funding for it. So if you all would like, I can put a meeting together with Margie and myself and just kind of talk about it and see what her, she had talked about September. I think I think it's doable. Anne?
Yes, I was going to say, I brought it to the MAD board, and they were very interested in helping raise funds, which we're pretty good at doing, to help make this happen. And whoever we partner with, of course, we always like to partner with whoever else is interested. And I think it's really important to share this throughout the community, and if and when it happens, and make sure everybody has the opportunity to do some programming around it. And has time to plan that programming. So actually this September kind of seems a little early, but if it's convenient, I guess it's convenient. But the programming could take place throughout the year, the rest of the year. Yeah.
Linda?
If we could possibly get it together and in Kingston for September, it would be fantastic to have it, and promote it during Art Walk Kingston. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that.
All right, well, I'll get together with Margie. I'll call her tomorrow and see if we can, put something together quickly. Ward,
Does the sculptor know of our interest?
does what?
The sculptor know of our interest, the artist?
Not that I know of, no.
So that may be a very important next step.
Okay.
Um,
I do have his phone number, so.
I was asked to bring it to the committee's attention that Greer from TransArt was interested in running all the programming. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Well, I could say that I had an earlier dream of that it would be very nice to put that right with Deep Listening Plaza, that statue could be right there, on either right behind where the plaque is, or it could be in front, to the side, or in that area. It could be because it'd be right on Broadway.
Yeah.
And it is the green line. I mean, that is the line. So it could be cool.
It could be very cool.
I'll just say that since Greer said that. Since Greer said that, I'll say this.
Okay, there you go.
And I also think if the Kingston Library is going to be funding it, and if MAD's going to be contributing to that each of those organizations has a stake in it too. So that I think that the programming should be shared rather than one person doing all of it, or one organization.
As I said, it's not my decision when I was asked this, but I said I would bring it to the commission. It's the city, it's the community's decision. And I think it's a shared pleasure we should all be part of.
And I mean, if the library is going to pay for a lot of it, they obviously have to be involved.
Obviously, and they'll do programming, but I think other people should be allowed to do the programming they want.
Be great at the library too. I mean, I can see it there, feel it there as well. That'd be really, really nice.
Linda, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just wanted to put a marker in this that, this is an amazing and great collaboration that could really bring some notice to Kingston. And I think that as soon as we understand that maybe this could happen and get some confirmation, we should loop in Ulster Tourism, who they don't seem to be very, like, we really need to start promoting the arts more through them and get them to step up to that. So, and I'm willing to jump in on that because I just feel like it's a lost opportunity.
I just want to say here on that because, I keep saying the same thing over and over again. They use the arts to promote tourism and to promote the area, but then they just don't communicate with the arts and the artists. They don't really, it makes me sad that there's not a real stream of communication between that entity and what's going on in the arts. So hopefully we can make that happen.
Well, maybe now that Rick is retired, maybe that can, there's a change of leadership. So maybe we can move forward a little bit
Do
more
we know who the new
aggressively.
tourism director is, or hasn't been announced yet?
Yes, it's Lisa Berger.
Oh, okay. She worked with Rick, correct?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
worked with
Yeah,
Rick,
I think-
and then she went over to economic development, but now Tim Wiedemann is economic development and Lisa's moved over back to tourism.
I just have a question about the statue conversation. Is that something that we're setting up committee meetings around, or is there any kind of is that how we're navigating it, or is this something that we're bringing to the Kingston Library? Because I remember Margie saying that she didn't necessarily have the capacity for organizing. So I'm just wondering if the Arts Commission is kind of stepping in to serve as kind of the organizing body, or just kind of wondering about that, because then maybe any conversations that happen around programming, that can be a conversation that happens in that space versus us making calls about that. So just kind of curious about how we're moving forward with that.
Well, I think what I'd like to do first is contact the sculptor and make sure that we can do this, and
Okay.
talk to Margie and see if they're in, and then go from there.
Okay.
So I'll do a little preliminary digging, and then we can put together our plan, our strategic plan.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, next we have Ione, Black History Month.
Okay, well, Black History Month is very, very full and very, very rich this year. I mean, it was before, but it's a wonderful, it's a plethora of events, a plethora in the very best sense. There's cooking for youth. There are lots of things for kids. Valentine's Day is coming. There's a comedy show. We have an O Positive mural tour. There's film and discussion. They have a self-guided Sojourner Truth event, which is online, but I think there's a non-online version of it as well. Self-guided community ride, it's called, which is one of the ideas that was coming up actually in the arts and culture meeting, to do things like that. Black culture is really stressed. There's readings and there's conversations all through the year, all through the month. My Dream Festival was kind of the first event, which is kind of sending dreams through. The Dream Festival is actually going through Women's History Month as well, so we have continued interest in Black and brown issues that are coming up later in March. So there's Land in Black Hands, which is the a screening and a talk, which is the Kingston Land folk are giving a talk on. History of Black Cowboys really kind of struck me as something to do. It's quite an interesting, it's related to urban equine programs. So a lot of people don't know about those Black Cowboys. And there's also these wonderful things that are happening where people who don't often get to have conversations about special things are able to do this. So there's a secret conversation of wills and trust and death that is happening, has happened before, it will happen again, so people can begin to understand how to take care of those legal and moral issues. So it's a fabulous month of events, and you can go to blackhistorymonth.org to find them all. Most of them are virtual, easy and free. There's really something for everybody in there, for youth and elders, and I think it's a beautiful job.
Who organized it this year? I know in past years it was Frank Waters.
I think it's Frank and Ty, and it's a group effort. Yeah.
Looking at the calendar, it's amazing how much they have.
Yeah, it's really, really, really rich.
I know there's an event on the
Really interesting.
16th that I'm going to go, that talking about the woman in Saugerties, Augustus John was her name, and Peg Leg Bates, I think.
Oh, Peg Leg, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to highlight Black artists in the county.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But I do know Peg Leg Bay. My grandmother was friends with him. He did come to our place in Saratoga
What?
in the old days.
He was a performer, a vaudeville performer, or
Black vaudeville, yeah. He was really Peg Leg, and he would dance and sing, and so he
I
came.
saw him at UPAC.
I think he owned a bungalow colony in Kerhonkson.
he had a resort, right? Yeah.
Yeah, in Kerhonkson. Yeah. Wonderful.
Brenda Buffalino was,
Yes.
Mhm.
yeah.
That's right.
Right.
I want to mention, in honor of Black History Month, we're watching wonderful films, either made by Black directors or full of Black actors, or movies that tell Black lives stories. And one that we watched a couple nights ago was Miss Juneteenth. And I highly recommend it to everybody. I think it's just was wonderful.
Is it a new film?
Yeah, brand new.
I'll mention one thing that we're doing at the center is we're partnering with TMI to do a program called Black Trans Stories Matter. And it's the first of that type of collaboration. So I'll send you all information about it, because it's a call for storytellers. And so if you want to send it out to your list, that'd be great.
Peter, I love the view from your window.
It's really fun to be back in Uptown. It's cool.
Nice. Okay, any more comments or questions about Black History Month?
Yeah, go to a few. Attend a few.
I just want to give a comment that I think it came up in one of the other meetings. I think it came up in yesterday's meeting that it would be great if all this was on the city website. If we talked about that, we need more communication and branding with the city. But I mean, this is the kind of thing, I think it'd be great if it was placed on the city site to list it.
Great.
Well, I know that it's mentioned periodically different places, but I don't know if the whole thing is up anywhere like that.
I mean, I think everybody agrees that the city really could use a new website.
Yay.
That it's difficult to navigate. It's
It is.
it's clunky. Yeah.
It looks like it's from like the late 80s or something, when websites just started, Sorry, that's a little, we're being recorded right now, but
I was about to say, I was like,
it's pretty old looking. It needs a refresh.
It's okay that we comment on it. I mean, we are part of the city, so.
yeah, I think if folks want to see improvements on the website, I think that's definitely something that we can bring to folks' attention. I think one of the things that's challenging about updating it is kind of wondering how we would go about that, just because the cost for updating the website, I was kind of shocked by when I started doing some research into that. Because of course, as a resident millennial here, I of course am like, this makes no sense. But the more I learned a little bit about kind of how we would go about that, I was like, oh, this is a little bit different. And as we've started using Engage Kingston, one of the other things that I've noticed is, I mean, I think Engage Kingston is a much easier platform to utilize, but familiarizing people with the new platform has also been challenging. But I think Engage Kingston's kind of a step in the right direction, because as we're seeing, like, there are just so many more tools that you can use on that website to kind of get folks, excited to use it. So I definitely think communications is something we're excited about. In terms of promoting events on the city website, we don't generally tend to do specific event promotion unless it's being sponsored formally by the city, just because like we're trying to figure that out. But something that did come up in the meeting that we had at the during State of Culture was a lot of folks, trying to figure out how we would start using a calendar on the city website. And I think we're taking a good step with that with the meetings. So for folks that are kind of getting familiar with that new system that we have for sharing meetings, I think that's a step in the good direction of kind of figuring out what we'll be able to do. I know the only challenges are that there are certain venues that we can't promote events that happen in certain kinds of venues, which I think is, we can see if we can work about that. But I do definitely think, the farther we get away from when that website was created, it only gets more and more obsolete. So I think the more kind of we like lend our voices together to saying, hey, we need to do a redesign, and just making sure that that's something that people are reminded about as a priority. I think that would be really awesome.
Honestly, one easy quick fix would just be change the photo on the homepage. It's just
Yeah.
really uninviting photo. It's cold, somebody's in a hoodie kind of walking along. It's not inviting in any way, shape, or form. So that would
Yeah.
be so easy to take a beautiful photo of Kingston and put it in there. That would take 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
If this were a priority for the mayor, would it happen quicker?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, maybe we can kind of just vocalize and say, hey, we should update the website. I think that's something that we can vocalize. I know it's something that we talk about quite a bit, but sorry, phone in the office ringing, what? But I think that's definitely something we should talk about. Communication is really important, and the website is the #1 way that we communicate about things. I know something someone suggested is maybe having one thing I set up on the city website is like an image share, because we don't have a huge amount of images that we're licensed to use at the city. So maybe just encouraging folks to allow us to utilize images, things like that. I've seen all these awesome things that Kingston Happenings is doing with images because they have the drone. So it would be so cool if we could use some of those images or things like that. But I definitely agree that there are some quick fixes that could make the website just feel more accessible. So maybe we can communicate with Summer, because Summer's the communications director. So we could maybe make some suggestions to her and say, hey, these are just a few really quick, easy things that we think would help make the website feel a little bit more welcoming. And I feel like that's kind of like a good way to start that conversation.
Do you think there are any grants that are out there that might help fund this? Is it worth talking to the grants department?
Yeah, I definitely think grants are the way to go for this, because I know that, for some folks, as we all know, as we're kind of going through budget development, I think some folks feel like, well, it's not broken, so let's just keep using it. So maybe if we can find, I feel like there has to be a grant out there for, upgrades for communications or website development. I mean, it's a part of government function to be, people should be able to utilize it. Maybe if there's a way we can figure out how to make the web feature a little bit easier, because so many people access the internet through mobile browsing. So the fact that our website right now doesn't really have a lot of support for that, I think that's also a really good pitch too, of like, hey, like,
Update.
exactly, like, please. But yeah, I think maybe having a conversation with Summer at communications, and then maybe seeing if we can ask the grants department and see if maybe they have some research that they can do to see if there's any kind of grants out there for municipalities looking to upgrade their websites. I feel like that's probably out there. So
Right.
I think that's
Let's
a great
do it.
option. Yeah.
Yeah.
Addie, when you said certain venues you couldn't promote, what do you mean? Can you give me an example of what you mean?
I mean, like, we can't promote something that's in a bar.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
Got
so that's kind of
it.
challenging. And again, just like the thing about managing a calendar as somebody who, gets a lot of those, getting that information up. If it's user based, then it's only as good as folks coming in and uploading that. If it's us having to go out and source that information, that is a huge task. So, that's one other thing we just have to kind of figure out is like, would we be able to promote events that aren't free? Would it only be free events? Would it be events that are only specifically in the 9 wards? Would it be events that are in like the greater Kingston area? Like, just kind of thinking about what our criteria would be, and just kind of how we go about that. Like, also just even thinking about like how we categorize like what is related to the arts, like who would be making that call if somebody was saying, oh, I feel like my, this and this event is related to that, like who would be the quality assurance person for that. And that's something I've thought about quite a bit, because I know that, we've had a lot of meetings with Kingston Happenings and talked a little bit about some of the challenges that they face. So that's another kind of interesting thing, is like talking to somebody who does already manage an online community calendar and just learning a little bit about that. One thing I'm really excited about is Radio Kingston has been doing a lot of talk about creating community calendar. And I think that that's a really great resource because they're already providing so much support for like promos and things like that. And they don't have as many kind of barriers, I think. So I think maybe if we can figure out a way to support that. But I would love to be able to feature more events and be able to promote more things because I think that would be, you know, a good use of the website. So it's just kind of figuring out what the parameters are for it. But I don't
'Cause
think it's a huge
Yeah,
ask.
because I can see how a calendar would be complicated for the reasons you said, but it would be great like if there was just a promotional space, like
Right.
this Black History Month. Here's
Yeah.
what's happening in a link, you know, like rather than having to list a whole calendar, but
Yeah.
just connect people because usually everything has a link.
Yeah, we
I mean, I
usually
understand how but I mean, it would be great to if you go to the Kings to see that, and it just gives you a whole different feeling about the city.
Yeah, we usually
You
try
know?
to promote some stuff in the mayor's newsletter too, but I think, you know, maybe just making some space to do promotion on the website. But like I said, it's just kind of getting that information together and figuring out how we do it in a cohesive way. And I don't think that that's impossible at all. I think we could figure out a space for it. Just be figuring out like what makes the most sense. So I think
Like
there's
a monthly thing. Isn't like March Women's History Month or something?
Yeah,
And every month has some some special thing happening.
that's a great idea. I like
It
that.
could be like every month, you know, here's February, Black History Month, here's March, Women's History, here's April. I'm sure there's something we can pull a theme together from all the city events.
That's a great
Oh,
idea.
April is Poetry Month.
Yeah, see, there's every month has some kind of special theme.
Right.
There you go.
That's it. I like that. I think that's a really cool idea.
I do too. I like that.
Okay, Lynn, would you like to talk about the Todd Samara committee?
Yeah, there's not much. I just wanted to add it to the agenda because we are talking about putting together a website and we're talking to Rick about how to do that. And we want to have a website that would kind of continue Todd's legacy. We could sell more work. On May, we're planning to sell yet more work. I mean, there's more and more of his work. There's a lot of drawings. We want to get up storage. So we're going to have some kind of event in May, but we do want to put together this website that would have a donate button, that would have a way to look at an online catalog, you know, selective, sale of his work, and a little bit more about Todd and the Art Fund and the award winner. And I talked to Tom, Todd's brother, and he really wants to keep the fund sustainable. So we don't want to take a lot of money out of the principal. But the idea is if we could sell things, and that we want a website that would be flexible through time. So we were thinking that that was the best way to kind of continue Todd's legacy. So we're talking about it now and trying to figure it out. So I just want to let you know that.
How's the
And we
mural?
would work with Matt, and we would work with Matt, of course, and it would be great to work with Rick because he's so involved with Matt.
Lynn, what's the status of the murals down at the Maritime Museum?
Okay, so the one mural on the side of the building, we had Timely Signs printed out a banner on vinyl that replicates it. We gave it to the museum. They have not installed it. We assume with the weather, they can't do it right now, but we need to get on their case a little bit in the spring and say, you have it, you know, Timely Signs donated it. Could you please install it? Regarding the other mural, which Chris Gagne was going to do, but then he got tied up with his mom and all kinds of things. We're not sure that's going to happen.
It's in
I mean,
bad
we want it
shape.
to happen, but
Yeah,
Nancy and I have been talking about how to, you know, the website development is a lot more money than we thought.
I
We're
see.
in discussion about it, but it seems like after talking to Rick, it's going to cost a certain amount to do what we want to do. And we have to talk to Tom about it. It's not clear that how he'll feel about that.
Sure.
And on top of that, to do the mural, you know, it's in such a bad condition. And we also feel that it's part of the Maritime Museum, you know, like maybe they need to get a little involved. So that's kind of a little bit in limbo.
Well, we could
Chris
talk.
was supposed to do it, but he never got to it.
Yeah, I hear you.
And he wants to use oil paint, even though Nancy found out the original sign paint used by Todd and found the supplier, but you know, oil paint's a lot more money. So that's a little bit in limbo right now, but I'm sure we'll have more information when the weather gets warm.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was nice to see that little piece that you did, Addie, for the presentation the other day that featured all of the artists who have passed.
Yes.
I was glad we could put that together. Just as like, one of the things we're always talking about is trying to connect dots and provide more context. And I kind of feel like any moment that we have in the plan to kind of open up for talking about some narratives or people or things that we can talk about, I feel like it's just a great opportunity because some folks may not have known about those individuals or they may have seen some of those images, but like, I just think it's another opportunity to kind of reinforce like, hey, we have some really amazing community members. And even as we're talking about monuments and all those things, we have so many people in Kingston that, we want to celebrate. So I was happy to be able to put that in there.
Anne, you want to talk about the Midtown Arts District?
Just a little bit. I want Laura to speak to this, but she, in the new East Square building, has some very exciting classes that are going to start up. They've started now, so I'm going to let her speak to that. I also want to let everybody know for right now, we're planning the celebration of the arts and hoping that's going to happen. And Laura and Lisa Kelly have been talking to Nikon, and we were granted free 10 hours with them to consult about moving forward and the strategies and a strategic plan, which involves all of Kingston, of course. And then these little puggles, you may hear more about them. We're trying to do little pop-ups with those clay figures that were produced in the fall, which were really very cool. And so stay tuned for that. And also we're really actively pursuing the county right now to really recognize the power of the arts, not just in community building, but also for our economy. There's a very big economy around it. And obviously that's what we were talking about when we were talking about the master arts plan. So Laura, if you would just speak a little bit to the classes that are coming up, and our favorite Addie is also going to be having a show there very soon. So we want that on your radar. I think Laura's there, isn't she? Oh, did she check out?
Oh, she's muted.
I'm just unmute. I'm slow with the unmute.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, Addie's going to be here. I don't know what the title is yet, but something about the galloping apocalypse or galloping. No, what is it? The galloping.
It's the galloping pestilence.
That's right. The galloping pestilence, bringing her animation to life here. Yeah, classes, we took a hiatus. Classes are back. We're finishing up what we started before the Christmas. We have, I was just looking at the website. I'm so proud of all the artists that we have. This area is amazing. And there are so many talented individuals that are interested in teaching and being part of this larger community. And that, I think that's the thing that I find the most rewarding every day. So classes are starting. It's great. We, the fundraiser that we did was great. So we have scholarships to give kids. So nobody's kept out. Everybody's in the loop, Yeah, so we have animation. We have Joe Gonzalez is doing a crazy RG, anyway, role-playing game card thing and animation and all kinds of stuff. It's great. The older classes are not happening because, of course, us old fogies aren't going out in public for long periods of time at this moment. But we have a huge roster of people that are interested in classes. And also we just, we got a donation of a large intaglio press. And I think we're going to start opening up our studio to local artists. They can come in one-on-one or two at a time. So that's one way they can use our facilities. And Kai Navarrete, who's a former student of mine, is making a print for us. He's going to do a print series. So we're going to start experimenting with local artists and sharing facilities and prints and using that as a possible fundraiser.
So there it is, Lynn. Susie.
That sounds great. Anybody have any questions, comments? Okay. Ione Dream Festival.
Hi, yeah, it's happening. I hope that you all are paying attention to your dreams during this period in particular. Usually, what happens is people say, "Oh, I couldn't attend that event," but I've been dreaming like crazy, and I tell them that that's cool, because that's the whole idea. It's a very soft festival. So now that it's and you don't have to do anything, because dreams are like that. But we launched with this beautiful trio of Susie Ibarra and Claire Chase and Alex Pay. And Alex is at SUNY, and Susie's local too now. She's down that way. And it's beautiful. You can hear it still because it's a video and it's the music from the album. It's on our site now. It'll be up for another 4 or 5 days. So that was a beautiful watch party for that, or watch and listen party for it. And tomorrow, no, Saturday, we have an exhibition. So I used to do these online exhibitions years ago from Kingston before anybody was doing that, or many people were anyway. And so I thought, well, let's get going and do it again. So it's a big show opening on Saturday at 5 o'clock. And it is international and local. It's women that many colleagues and students that I've worked with, beautiful, beautiful artists, all of us. Lara has a piece, and several other people who are in town are in the show. We have what I call my Frenchies, Paris from Paris and parts of France. Julie Hedrick, Laura Giordano, Lisa B. Kelly, and Manuela Zervoggiati. She's a sculptor. Tony Thomas, so forth. So it will go, and what it is that we're going to do a toast. So you're invited to bring your favorite glass and your favorite drink, and we'll watch the show, which will it's about 21 of us, and then we'll have a toast. So that's happening Saturday. We invite you to join us and bring your favorite glass and your favorite beverage for the toast. So we also have pop-ups in City of Kingston. So some local musicians and musicians who are wanting to be more and more local to Kingston are coming up from New York. We have a residency at Maritime Arts that I'm involved in, and they want to do some Dream Action Theater around Kingston. So Dream Action Theater means that people spontaneously burst out into a dream, and so we never know what it's going to look like, and we'll document in case you miss it, and you can play it at night and go home and dream. So we have a dream box or a dream sack as well. So we're inviting you to deposit your dreams. And Maureen Cummings is collaborating with us. She's worked, you know who she is, right? She's a wonderful artist, wonderful book artist. So she's doing a piece for Wham. So in our dream sack, which you can access right on the website, there's a place where you can also send a dream that particularly is relating to the pandemic for her show that it's a sculptural exhibit. So you can participate in that if you like. But we'll be performing some of those dreams also at the Dream Action Theaters that happen both at Deep Listing Plaza, but other places as well in Kingston. So that's some of what's happening.
A lot.
Yeah. So can I give you the link here? Let's see.
Yeah, if you put it in the chat.
I'm trying. Somehow it's not going in. Hold on. Oh, here it is. Okay. There you go. So everything's there, including the ability to listen to and view this beautiful video that's Susie made while she was in Malaysia.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any new business, any old business? Anybody just want to say something?
Yeah, I want to draw attention, Susie, given your interest in what my screen says, what the name is, that Lara's screen is my name spelled backwards.
You are correct.
Oh my God, I thought it was a joke, a Beatles joke.
That's really cool.
Thank you, Lara.
I want to thank Addie for really holding the strength and the power around this whole cultural plan, arts and culture plan. And I know it must have been a tremendous amount of work. And Addie, I think we all want to applaud you for your hard work.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And like I said before, like I don't just mean that as like a diplomatic answer. I genuinely really thank you all for your support. You know, one of the best things about working on this project is just knowing that we have so many people who, you know, we can talk to about the different things that are coming up, that we can have really awesome, engaging conversations about the arts. I feel like it just helps us, you know, I feel like we're kind of in a moment right now where we're able to have some conversations that we've been having for a while, kind of in different spaces. And now there's like a record of it. And so I really appreciate that. It has been really interesting to do it during a global pandemic. But I just want to thank you all for your support, because knowing that, you know, we're all working on this as a team definitely, you know, helps keep the momentum up. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I just want to just say one add to that, and that through your work and getting this and all the participants, you know, it's actually, from my perspective, it's such a focusing point. You know, like, so, you know, I wear a lot of little hats in this arts community organization, and, you know, having the master plan and going and listening to the discussions and hearing what people are saying, you know, coming back here and wrapping it up, it really helps me to put my work in context and make it relevant and build on all the different places that are actually doing the work, you know. So the master plan has been very helpful that way in terms of bringing those voices together. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, that is good to hear. I think that's been one of the main things I've been noticing is like, I've been putting a lot more like things together as the conversations keep happening. And it's kind of nice to have these neutral spaces to have these conversations. It's like with each workshop, each breakout group that we do, I'm hearing a new perspective. And I totally agree with you that it just helps me kind of focus on like, okay, here's where we're at. So now that we're at the point where we're talking about priorities and we're getting into action world, I just feel like, all right, here we go, next step. And I think folks, I hope that other people who are participating are getting that same kind of energy from it. Because I do think it's gonna really help us figure out like these conversations we're having about communication. There have been so many people too who have been, you know, just noticing them be like, oh, you're working on this, I'm working on this. And then the things, you know, things keep happening like that. So it's cool for me to watch that and just to be able to provide more and more resources for people. It's just, you know, as we were having conversations the other day, it's just like, it's just another chance to remind folks that we're a really strong community in Kingston. We've been making a lot of contributions to this community. And, you know, as we were talking about with tourism, all these different spaces, we are at the table. And so now it's time to kind of like, you know, take that space. And, you know, I was encouraged to see some folks from the city. You know, there was some city staff at the State of Culture the other day, and that was really encouraging to me that they showed up, because it also shows that folks at the city level are also starting to understand, you know, arts aren't just here to help you pick, you know, a color for something. We're here to make conversation. We're here to make an impact on economics, on policy, on development, on all of these other things. We're here to make that statement. And I think as folks are seeing those numbers, they're realizing we're a charged group. We're not, we're here to make some waves. So I'm excited.
Lynn?
Yeah, I mean, it really is like connecting the dots at a higher level, because I remember talking to Anne years ago and Richard about how you guys came together initially, and it was about conversations, right? And now it's happening citywide thanks to the plan and your work, Addie. So I think it's great. I just wanted to mention, I've had conversations with 2 artists lately. One lives in the shirt factory. One has studio space in the brush factory, and I'm hearing that the rents are doubling and people are moving out en masse. Just to let you know. I don't know what we can do about it, but I talked to Lynn Herring, and she has a studio at the brush factory, and she said the rent doubled and she can pay it, but when it goes up again, that's it. And I'm just hearing a lot of people are moving out.
Depressing.
So I don't know what we can do, but just wanted to.
I thought that the person who bought all those buildings said that he was going to maintain the rent.
Yeah, well, I'm hearing, I talked to someone who lives in the shirt factory, and he said that a lot of people are moving out because I don't think that the rent, I don't know, his rent's not going up. He's been there a long time, but I'm hearing there's just a lot of movement. And also there are maintenance costs. I mean, the shirt factory, it's a huge expense, but I'm hearing the brush factory, they're definitely going up. And we know they're going up in some of Mike's properties that he since sold. Like we know that Neville and Harris had to move out of the downtown one. I mean, and I'm just hearing this. So even, yes, that's what he said, but the reality is I'm here. And I don't know what I'm trying to say is I don't know the reasons. I don't know if there's a reasonable, if there are costs, if it's going through the market. I mean, I assume it's a combination of things.
I definitely think that the more folks we can get, like, I always hate saying like, oh, tell them to email me. But I do think like the more kind of documentation we can get of these things, the better. I know some folks might not necessarily want to go on record talking about it. I respect that, but I do definitely think that we should try to figure out whose radar we can put it on once we get a new housing specialist back at the city again too. That might be something just to place on the radar, because I think that that would be something that would be under their jurisdiction to think about. Is just, okay, well, you're seeing this shift and we know how it's going to impact the arts. So, if those people feel comfortable and encouraged and empowered to kind of just talk about those real life changes, I think it would be helpful just to have a record of that. Because if that's something that continues to happen to all those folks, that could have some.
I mean, it's more of it's also an argument for more space. Like I know people have been talking about a community arts space, more reason for it. If there could be rental studios, because what I'm hearing is that there's no, they have to leave. There's nowhere you can't find affordable space now.
Well, I am hearing, Lynn, that the county is looking at the IBM buildings. You've probably heard that too.
Yeah, we
should keep an eye on that. And I know that some people have repurposed their malls for artist spaces. And that's something maybe too we could look at as a community. These aren't living spaces, these are artist studio spaces. But my big concern is that the very creative culture that's here will be forced out. And it continues to be the conversation, and we've got to really focus and get our politicians to focus on why it's so important to keep our creatives here, allow them to be here. And they are marginal. I mean, people who are obviously under-resourced are on the margins, but artists are often very under-resourced, and they're the first that, they bring such vibrancy to the world, and they're the very first that get kicked out. So
right. And also in terms of the alternative spaces, I know there are woodworkers and craftspeople. One is someone who lives in my neighborhood. That's one thing she said specifically when the community meeting was that those people need spaces too, like artisans, and that would be a huge
maybe we need to advocate more to our county about that IBM space, about this, and talk some more about it.
Well, I can tell you where things are at with that right now.
Good.
So right now, it's owned by the county, and there's a strong feeling that it should not be owned by the county. So there's a process that's going on to create an independent corporation, like has happened with several other buildings that were owned by the county, so that it gets out of the county's hands and is managed separately. And there's definitely conversations about the possibility of having it be an artistic hub, some sort of a maker space. So Tim Wiedemann is definitely engaged in that conversation. A lot of this is going to come down to dollars and cents. Who's going to support it? How's that going to work? But I do know that it is definitely on his radar and on the county executive's radar that the arts are an important, and I'm sorry, I keep pushing that Ulster 2040 plan. I don't know if anybody here has even read it, but I really encourage you to read it, because it's one of the economic drivers that they identify. There's 5 economic drivers, and makers are one of them. So you all should read that plan. It's really informative.
It's on the county website.
If you just do a Google search for Ulster 2040, it'll come up.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
But the other thing is that if all these properties are going to be in private hands, I mean, why? Because now they're valuable, right? Like now they can make money. I get that, right? Why not get the tax money? But then it's an argument for some kind of policy, a fee or something that would put it back in the community. We're getting back to the percent for arts program, an argument for it. That as more money comes in the community, then why not?
The idea of getting it out of the county's hands is that the county is not a property manager and shouldn't be in a property manager state, which I totally agree with. So right. I think that there can still be criteria for whoever the developer is that comes in and eventually refurbishes the project, and that's definitely in conversation now, that there be some sort of connection to community. I mean, I'm not going to list them off because I don't actually know them right now, but there are going to be a list of sort of like, here's what we're looking for.
That's
whoever takes over
because Ginsburg's been trying to sell forever, never could, right? So the county will make it more marketed in an intelligent way and try to set parameters for what they
there's already I can send this to you all. There's already it's not a fully realized request for proposal, but what it is it's basically step one, kind of like what with the Mellon grant, like a show of interest kind of form that they're sending out to see if people are serious about it and basically vet them. And then there's going to be a formal RFP process for developers who want to come in and make a bid on it.
And it could be partial, right? Like they could buy a piece of it, not rather than the whole thing getting sold. You don't know yet. Yeah.
Peter, I have the question in the back of my mind that that site is polluted. Have you had any conversation on it being a brownfield?
Yeah, there has been conversation about areas. There's a couple different things going on. There is asbestos issues that was in the building, and there's basically this big pile of junk that's sitting there that needs to be removed. But then I think I know where you're talking about. There's an area that's kind of like marshland area.
Groundwater.
Yeah. And
groundwater. That's years old. Yeah.
So that area, there's, from what I'm hearing, is that there's conversations about somehow transforming that, looking at it, seeing what can be cleaned up, and then transforming it into more natural space rather than, So there are definitely conversations about it. I think the question again is money, how and who is going to clean it up.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else have anything?
I have one little interesting thing that just came to mind based on this conversation. And I had an interesting call from the Holographic Museum in New York City, and they want to have a satellite here in Kingston. So, they're looking at properties here, and they also want to have the opportunity to perhaps have an educational arm. So I'll keep you posted. But
I remember going to that years ago when holograms were like novel.
Yeah, I know. But
do you know why they're picking here? They just, again, Kingston's a hip place to come, or?
Yeah, mostly that.
Huh.
There's already an artist community here. That's why.
Wow.
Floyd was on the board 30 or 35 years ago of the Museum of Holography.
Who was? You were?
Floyd, my partner.
Oh, Floyd.
Well, okay.
That's my dream. Yeah. That's my, I've been, this is it for me.
They are want to come to Kingston because of you, Ione. It's clear.
Well,
Because because you dreamed them and now they're appearing.
I
Exactly.
really-
I
I
think
really
that's
have.
right. I think
I'm
I had everything to do with this.
I'm always talking about holograms to people and saying, what we're doing now, it's going to be holographic in about 2 years. 2 years. We have the technology for it, We'll all be sitting on this little table, little U's will be on the table with me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All kinds of great things.
Very
Oh,
cool.
how exciting. How exciting.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
So
motion.
moved.
Okay, Anne and Ward, anybody want to stick around? Nope,
Thank
it's
you,
dinner
Susie.
time. You're
Thank you.
welcome. All right, and you will
Thank
all
you,
be hearing
Susie,
from
for
me
the great
soon.
meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Susie.
All
And
right.
we'll see you all soon. Take